So I think Ryan Pace definitely just saved his job, and it's one of those big moves for him. The thing is like everybody gives credit to the Tampa Bay GM, but this is the same guy that drafted Roberto Aguayo in the third round or second round. I'm not sure which round exactly. I know that Ryan Pace did the Trubisky trade, and it's absolutely awful. But now we're going to see whether or not Matt Nagy is a good OC because he's got a quarterback who can make all the throws in every part of the field. And I may not be the biggest fan of him, but now he's got the ability to do what he wants to do with an offense. He's got a quarterback that's smart. I'm hoping Fields gets brought in at the right time, whether that's week 1 or week 5 or 6. Doesn't matter to me. I don't want him to be thrown into the fire because there's absolutely no reason. Like, this team just wants a quarterback that's dynamic. They just want fun. They want to have a good time because they know they're not winning a Super Bowl next year. They're just trying to see if they're going in the right direction.
Jordan, I want you to ask Dave how many games Matt Nagy has actually called plays in his entire coaching career.
My guess, I think it's probably between 38 and 40 would be my guess. I know he's coached 48 games for the Bears now, and he took off the second half of last season, but I believe he called plays for the first 2 years and the first half of last year. So around 40. Do you know?
Right. I thought it was less than that.
No, I know that Bill Lazor took over last year.
Yeah, Bill Lazor took over midway through the year last year. The first time that he took over was that Monday night game against the Vikings, and that was arguably the worst called game of the season. And then Bill Lazor kind of, the next week he stepped it up a little bit and started implementing a more run-heavy approach, which worked for the Bears, and they started winning some games. I don't know. I feel like Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace both get a very unfair shake, if I'm being honest. There are two terrible draft picks that Ryan Pace has made. And everyone talks about Mitch Trubisky being the worst, but I personally think that Kevin White at 7th overall was even a worse pick than Mitch Trubisky. We at least got 4 starting years out of Mitch Trubisky, went to the playoffs twice with him. It wasn't great, but he was good enough to win some games and go 28-20, but that Kevin White one was just absolutely terrible. But when you look at what he's done in the late rounds, he's found a lot of really good talent late in the drafts, and he's made some aggressive moves in free agency to fulfill needs that we have. So really, I don't think that Ryan Pace really deserves to be on the hot seat. I feel like when you're in Chicago, in one of these huge markets, you're just, everything that you do is under a microscope, and then you have a huge rampant fan base that is just very impatient, and they just want to win right now. And that's not how it works in the NFL. It takes time to build a team, and I think that Ryan Pace is doing the right thing. And then for Matt Nagy, I know, he's another guy that just gets ragged on all the time, and he's made some bad plays or some bad decisions as well. But it's not that I think he's a bad coach overall. I think when it comes down to clock management and play calling, he's made some head-scratching moves. But I do like his offense, and you would see it a lot over the last few years, where players would be wide open, but Mitch Trubisky would try to force the ball to somebody that he should have been looking at, or Darnell Mooney would blow the top off the defense, be wide open, and then couldn't get hit. So I think that if we have a quarterback that can hit those throws, I think all of a sudden Matt Nagy is going to start looking like a very formidable coach. I feel like Mitch Trubisky is what was holding him back from being the quote-unquote offensive mastermind that he claims to be.
Yeah, and the guy missing Mooney all year was Nick Foles. Like, it was ugly. Like, you'd see Mooney would be open by 5 yards, nobody around him, and Nick Foles would miss him by 8 yards.
Well, you know what? Yeah, and I don't know if Andy Dalton has done any better.
I love that tweet.
So I had to pull this tweet up. Dave, this was like one of the best all-time tweets in fantasy football history that I saw. And as soon as I saw it, I was just like, oh, my gosh, I love it. For those who are listening and not watching, it is, Woody's character from Toy Story getting painted over with the brush. Andy's name is being painted off of the bottom of his shoe. It is perfect. Andy Dalton out. What did you think about Andy Dalton kind of coming in and then all of a sudden being a backup in a mentor role?
Well, it didn't shock me at all. I actually tweeted right before the draft. I said, hey, everybody is saying that Andy Dalton's going to be the week 1 starter, but I want to be so sure about that because just 4 years ago in 2017, the Bears went out and they gave Mike Glennon a 3-year, $45 million contract, and everyone said, oh, cool, Mike Glennon, he's going to be the quarterback for the Bears for the next 3 years. And then a month later, they traded up in the draft and drafted Mitch Trubisky. Fast forward 4 years, they go out and they give Andy Dalton a contract, and everyone says, cool, Andy Dalton's our quarterback. Draft night comes, trade up, draft a quarterback. So, I mean, the writing was on the wall. Like, anybody that's been a Bears fan should have expected this to happen. It's exactly what they did in 2017.